Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday morning at bright and early at 8 a.m. We are so happy for you to join us today. We have some exciting things planned for you in this half an hour, this 45 minutes, and even more throughout the rest of the day. And we'll go through the schedule for the day after we're done chatting with our panel. But we do have a lot of great things planned for you today. Up first, obviously, is this teacher panel talking about lessons learned, learning what we've taken this crazy experience and changing it into opportunities for different ways of engaging with our students. As a reminder, my name is John Shoemaker from the Department of Educational Technology, and everything that we do here right now is being recorded on YouTube, so we're happy to have you. So also when it's over, it will be uploaded immediately to our channel, which is down below. You can always click on the subscribe button. We are up to almost 1.5 thousand subscribers. So we're growing quickly over these past 2 months, which is awesome. So please hit that subscribe button. You can also click the bell so that you'll notified every time we go live. And always don't forget to just give us a like on this video too, just to show us that you're enjoying the content that we're giving you. In addition, everything is also posted on our website, edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. So everything with the panel discussions is posted under panel discussions. So you'll be able to see a close-up of the panel pictures so that you can reach out to them if you missed their Twitter handle or whatever, and also see the replay of this if you're not sure how to get back to our channel on YouTube. And as always, we are happy to have you in the chat box over here. Please feel free to share your ideas, share your thoughts as we go through the questions. For sure, answer the questions that are being posed to the panelists in the chat box as well. And Kaylin, our moderator, will pull in some of your feedback in the chat box to the live stream as well. So always we can start with good morning over there. I know I see a lot of people already saying good morning. Don't forget, you can always also start with your name, what school you work at, let us know where you're from if you're not from Palm Beach County, just to start introducing each of you. If you don't see the chat over there, it may be kind of diagonal, wherever my hand is, right there, to the right and under your video, depending on how you have your YouTube channel set up. It just may not be where it is. And if you can't chat, you do have to click in there and create your channel, which is totally okay. Just click create channel and then join the conversation. So please feel free to use that chat box. We also have our minions in there. There are moderators from EdTech and some other places that are there to answer any other questions. So if you do have questions, please feel free to ask them in there, and the minions will get to that too. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Kaylin, who is going to introduce our panel and get started with our first sets of questions. Take it away, Kaylin.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here to bring together another fantastic group of educators to share their experiences is just wonderful. Now, you know, they say that experience, without a doubt, right? It's the best teacher. And the worst experiences teach the best lessons. To say that we've learned a lot throughout this quarantine period would be an understatement. So I'd like to have each of the panelists introduce themselves now, and just share a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy and why. We're all looking for things to do throughout this period that we're home. So go ahead and introduce yourself. I'll start with you, Chris.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen, or Chris Carvenin, and I teach 8th grade science over at Palm Springs Middle School. I have only been in Palm Springs and Palm Beach County for a couple of years now, but I came from 15 years of experience up in the Connecticut public school system. So shout out to my old school, the Harbor Huskies. And then I worked a couple of years as the supervisor of education programs over at the Clearwater Aquarium. So, you know, it's really great to be here. So happy to be here. And, you know, tell me, how am I supposed to pick between the Ralph Macchio version of The Karate Kid, The Goonies, and, you know, any Leslie Nielsen movie like Airplane or The Naked Gun? So I don't know how I'm supposed to pick one of those. But, I'm kind of an 80s gal all the way. So those are my go-to movies. They entertain, they make me laugh. And, you don't have to think a lot when you watch them. And I'm good with that.
Those are some good suggestions, definitely.
Thank you.
Chris. Go ahead, Seth.
Good morning. My name is Seth Erstein. I teach English language arts at Palm Beach Gardens High School. This is a really hard one. I'm home with a 7-year-old, so my first inclination is to tell you anything that is not Toy Story, because we've watched that in the past few weeks. Although I do love it, you can only take so much of it. Probably one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies is also coming from the 80s. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is one of my favorites.
That's a great movie. Great movie, especially as an educator, right? Go ahead, Devyn.
So I'm Devyn Tracy. I am a teacher. I'm an 8th grade science teacher at Carver Middle School, and I've only been there for 2 years. Actually, it's my 2nd year teaching in general, but I love it there. I absolutely do. But my guilty pleasure movie is not from the 80s. It's not from the 70s. It's definitely not from the 60s. It's actually from the about 40s, 50s. It's Gone with the Wind. I just love the love triangle that Scarlett O'Hara and that she has with Ashley Wilkes and Rhett Butler. And Rhett Butler is this old Southern gentleman from Carolinas, and he's trying to win her over with his smug, smart self, and she's still in love with Ashley Wilkes while he's married to somebody else. And I don't know, it's just the drama, and then the gowns that she wears, the colors. I just absolutely love that movie. I can't, even though it's 4 hours long.
So, Devyn, you just threw me for a loop. At first, I was like thinking, here I'm sitting, I'm like, oh, she's about to call us all old, right? Because she's a baby compared to us. And a 2nd-year teacher who is a rock star, by the way. But I love that you picked a classic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Melanie?
Hi, good morning. My name is Melanie Lobeto. I teach 8th grade science at Omni Middle School. So a movie that I remember watching over and over when I was a kid is A League of Their Own. That movie just taught me so much about just grit and never giving up. And it was just so inspiring.
Very good choice. Well, mine is an 80s movie called Girls Just Want to Have Fun. If you have not seen it, this was SJP before she was SJP. Helen Hunt, Shannon Doherty, pre-90210. And it's like the ultimate dance movie. She, wants to enter a dance competition. The guy, they have the fight. There's the awesome 80s soundtrack. There's the wardrobe. I mean, really, need I say more? There's leotards and neon and a dance-off. So it's fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, you probably should look for it on Netflix or Amazon. You will thank me. I promise you. So let's get started with our panel questions. All of you guys know me, I'm a huge advocate for planning. And I think that planning makes you a really fantastic educator in the classroom. But sometimes the thing your students need the most has nothing to do with what's on your lesson plans. So I guess what I would be asking you now is, what practices have you been putting into play to maintain the strong relationships you developed earlier in the school year? Go ahead, Devyn.
So with me, I am with my colleagues, Miss Gale and Miss Perez. Sometimes we get wrapped up in like a friendly banter, and we get the kids involved by that. And they love, even when we were in the classroom, they love to have those debates with us, and they love to like try to prove us wrong. So I think that helps keeping them motivated and that relationship still there, because they still want to have that friendly conversation with us. With my students, like this last week was May the 4th, and it was perfect because we did a lesson on forces So I was like, Star Wars theme. So I had literally had like 15 minutes. I went in my bathroom. I like put tape all over my face. I put eyeshadow on, and I made like a face mask like you would see in Star Wars. And like I wore that, and I did the lesson for that day as for like May the 4th be with you. And all the kids were like, oh my God. And like they know I do that stuff because this past Halloween I dressed up and I had my hair, I spray painted my hair like gray white, I had it all the way out to here. I was wearing a black dress and like a white face, and they just like they know I go crazy, and they love that I'm like showing my personality and I'm putting myself out there and I'm being weird, and it's okay to be yourself, and they really like that. And also like we hold office hours, and sometimes like, they'll ask questions or they just want to talk, and we just talk about anything.
Absolutely. I love that you brought that up, because vulnerability, Devyn, is one of the greatest trust builders, right? So while they may be at first telling you like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're painting your face. And I think that's fantastic that you did that and you connected it with forces. That's amazing. They love that. Like, it's like when kids are like, I don't really want a sticker. No, they want a sticker. They're in high school and they want a sticker. People want a sticker. Adults want a sticker. So I love the fact that you're still doing that. Thank you, Devyn. Thank you for sharing that. Go ahead, Melanie.
So what I do to keep my connection with them is I do my SEL questions every day as my daily check-in attendance. And I did actually follow one of the teacher's suggestions that I heard from one of the webinars, that she also would write her answer with the daily questions. And that has actually sparked some great conversations since I started it. So that was a good one. And during live sessions, I also take like a couple of minutes in the beginning to just talk about anything other than science. And that really like keeps our relationship going still.
Absolutely, Melanie. And I think what you were referencing is where Heather McGill had suggested that, where if she asks a challenging questions like we should uninvent video games, and then she gives her like, or should we uninvent video games? And she gave her response. Well, obviously that sparks huge debate, and you have kids losing their minds and wanting to defend themselves. So it develops really nice skills, right? But I love the fact that you mentioned you're doing all of those check-ins. I think that that's super important. Before I jump over to Seth, I want to pull up, I laughed when I saw someone by the name of Gina West, I guess, worked with Chris in Connecticut. And no, it's okay, Chris, it's okay. This is why you're my people.
That's good. Yeah.
Totally. Dancing in the hallway and just being silly. And that's fun, right? So a favorite part of the day. Of course.
Yep.
So,
it was Friday afternoon. We danced our way out the building to some silly song.
Thanks for sharing that, Gina, and thanks for being here. We really appreciate that.
Thanks, Gina.
So, Seth, I saw you had your hand up. What do you have going on with your relationships with your students?
I heard Devyn mention in the beginning about the carryover of the relationship from the classroom, and I completely agree with that. Everything that we do, whether we're in the classroom or we're distance learning, I really believe boils down to the relationships and building that foundation of trust. And in an English class, which is what I teach, that's crucial, not just because it opens up conversations, but as kids write, you just kind of start getting an insight into how they're thinking, what they're thinking about, and it kind of opens a door for you to be able to communicate. And I've always said that, ELA and SEL go really well together because it really opens up communications. And when you have the trusted relationship with the student, you can engage them in a much deeper level and really deepen the relationship that you have with them.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Seth. I really appreciate that. I think you bring up a really good point about writing. And yes, Jean, that's a great point. Celebrating their birthday. Ironically, and this is probably going to sound crazy to all of you out there, so I haven't been in the classroom in years, and I still have my students' birthdays on my Google Calendar that pop up. So kids that I have not seen in 10 years, I know when their birthday is, and I can easily reach out to them. And that, I mean, I still have relationships with them years later. So I think birthdays they're really important. I noticed also Pete Stewart mentioned a comment, and I only want to bring this up too, because I believe, Seth, you're your school's GSA advisor, correct?
I am not. I do definitely support the GSA, but I'm not currently right now.
Okay, so you definitely support. I just know that I've seen you involved in a lot of that, and I think that what Pete's comment about staying in contact through Google Meets, one-on-one or virtual GSA club meetings. Thank you so much for sharing that, Pete. I just remembered you being involved in that, Seth. So forgive my for not knowing that. But maybe I thought you ran it. Maybe you should run it. I don't know. No, not knocking the person running it.
At one point, yes, but I will not take that away from the great sponsor we have.
Okay. And then Chris, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was just listening in on, and hi to Gina for adding that little comment. But it's certainly all about the relationships that you built in the first place. I think I've found that if you're goofy in the classroom, why would you change that to be all like regimented online? You have to find ways to be yourself. And I find that if you took the time to really build relationships with kids in the class, they're much more likely to do something for you now that we are distance learning wise. So I might do silly things like on little exit tickets, I might have, 5 science questions, but my bonus question might be something like totally ridiculous. Like, out of these 4 pictures, which new hairstyle should Mrs. K try out next year? Silly things like that. And I find that like even those dumb little things keep these kids coming back for some other dumb question the next day. And, by default, they're also reading the science stuff. So it's continuing the relationship and continuing to be yourself. You have to be genuine, or people are just going to be, they're going to realize you are just, just going through the motions. And
Absolutely.
I don't want to do that as a teacher. I never did. And it was harder to do online, but you still have to do it.
Absolutely. Walking the walk, right? And what you mentioned, which is really interesting, Chris, is the idea of relational capacity. And I've talked about this in other trainings before, but the stronger your relationship is with somebody, the more willing they are to inconvenience themselves for you.
Yep.
No kid wants to write an essay. They don't want to do a bell ringer. They don't want to do anything of that nature. Just like your friend doesn't want to really take you to the airport or help you.
That's true.
They will, because you have a strong relationship, right?
Right.
So the stronger that relationship is, the more you can get kids to do things. And I love that you brought that up, Chris. It's a really valid point. Thank you for sharing. So that kind of segues nicely into my next question. So we know the undeniable relationship between engagement and student success, right? So for anything to stick, it has to matter. So my question to you guys would be, what tools or resources are you currently using, or you've been using over the past 6 weeks, to spark and maintain engagement? Melanie.
To maintain engagement, I do a couple of things. So first, I mentioned earlier that I do live sessions twice a week. And when I do live sessions, I use Pear Deck. And Pear Deck is really, it's great because it actually lets them interact with me. And there are also like templates that I can use there that gives me ideas on how students can put their answers down, and in real time, I can give feedback. So that's one way I engage them. And then with my lessons, I make sure that, since it's science, and we all know science is not everyone's favorite subject, but when I design lessons that's geared to real life applications, they're interested. Now they want to hear it. So when we talked about genetics like a couple of weeks ago, and I started talking about gene therapy and genetic disorders and diseases, and they had to write a project on it, they were all for it. They don't like projects, but they were very, very interested.
That's great. The real world scenarios as well as Pear Deck. Thank you for sharing that, Melanie. I would agree. And there's probably some other things you've done too recently, which I've noticed you've done that you didn't touch on, but I won't steal your thunder. Maybe you'll share that later. Chris, I saw your hand.
Yeah, so, those are great ideas. Thank you for that. I wouldn't say that I'm like huge tech savvy or doing like these amazing technology things, but I think you really have to think outside of the box. So, one day, like for Earth Day, I sat outside underneath this, big palm tree and like things were falling on my head. Or, I kind of go old school and I'll build little things out of Play-Doh and do demonstrations for them. I also do live sessions. And I didn't think that they'd really want to attend live sessions, but I think there was one day that I couldn't do it. And I had like a ton of kids saying, "Oh no, I was just hoping that I could come to your live session," because they just want that some sort of communication with you. And so I guess to keep up engagement, you want to keep up your energy. You want to change some things up, like whether it be setting or what you're showing them, or, some sort of silly little demonstration you're doing. And, you just have to kind of come up with a way to pull them in every single day with, something fun, music, something silly, or even just a fun fact. So again, you got to think outside the box and figure out how you're going to keep these kids entertained.
I love that you brought that up, Chris, not only stepping outside, so sometimes changing up your environment, but even those small demos. Just a little demonstration is really helpful for kids. I thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. Seth?
So just to piggyback on what you said, Chris and Kaylin, sorry, just with the small demonstration, I kind of had a plan to initially start the Telltale Heart for my creative writing class, and it wound up being a performance of the Telltale Heart. And
Cool.
it was entertaining for me, and I heard from my students it was entertaining as well. But as far as tools go, actually, Kaylin, last year you introduced me to Flipgrid, which is not a groundbreaking tool for many of the trailblazers, but for my students, it's been instrumental in us being able to communicate. I thought that my kids would be afraid to take a video of themselves, would be afraid to take a picture of themselves, and absolutely not. In this Snapchat society, I have got some of the most amazing and engaging responses from my students because they were able to sit down in their hallway, sit down in the corner of their room, and just start talking. And I've been getting great engaging stuff from them.
I'm so glad that tool is working for you. I too believe that it is a fantastic method of response for kids. And thanks, and your experience with the Telltale Heart is equally fantastic. So thank you for sharing that with our participants. I'm noticing a bunch of comments coming in, which is great. So please keep those coming in. Devyn, how about you? What engagement strategies are you using?
So just to piggyback off of Melanie, can we just take a moment and just thank Google for Pear Deck, because Pear Deck is absolutely amazing. I can't even. It's amazing. And Melanie is completely right. There's so many templates for you to use so that you can and use it to the best way that you can to engage your students. And the students love using Pear Deck. And then you can create your own slide and just add little bits to it, like a draggable or a text or an ABCD. I mean, there's so many possibilities with Pear Deck, and in my class and with Miss Perez and Miss Gale, we love utilizing Pear Deck. Any chance we get, we try to use it. Other strategies that we've tried or tools that we use to spark engagement, again, is just like doing a debate. Recently, last week, Miss Perez and I got into a little debate about aliens, if they're real, and so she was all for it, and I was no, it's not. There's no evidence to help support it. And then the kids were getting involved. So again, doing a little debate like that. Other tools that we've used is Kahoot. One thing that we've changed with Kahoot is the top 3 winners we got this idea from our 6th grade science team. The top 3 winners would get food delivered to their house instead of like competition between the
What?
teachers.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so as long as the parent, we would contact the parents, and if the parents were okay with it, the kids would email us what they want, and we would send it to them.
That's genius.
Yeah, I know, right? So shout out to 6th grade science team for that idea.
Well, that's fantastic, Devyn. And I have to say, guys, she's completely downplaying her engagement strategies. I don't know if you guys saw Maria when she was on last week. She's on her team, and they have been doing live stream classes every day with well over 100 kids in them on live. Amazing, right? You really, honestly, kudos, hats off to you and your team. And so they've been doing live classes with over 100 kids, and I've been in them and seen them using Pear Deck, and it's been a great tool to be able to engage kids and find out where they are and check in. I've seen them play games, which are great. So thank you for all of that, Devyn, that you guys keep doing. Clearly, the kids at Carver are benefiting tremendously from your willingness as a team to also work together. So I thank you for that. And I know it's not easy being online all day long. Our lives have changed tremendously. So that kind of leads me to a question. While we're in this situation and we want to disconnect from tech, is there a book that you might recommend people to read? And why would you recommend that book? Chris?
Yeah, I'll start with that. So normally I'm a kind of like a murder mystery person. I like to kind of figure out, who did it and whatnot. But I joined this virtual book club. I know I'm kind of a nerd, but that's all right. And we just finished this book called The Over Story. And oh my goodness, you guys should read this book. It's so good. It's basically, if you're a sciencey person, it talks a little bit about kind of like trees and how they are connected. But then it tells these connecting stories of these different people, and they're sort of like environmentalists, and they are trying to fight for, not cutting down forests and things, but it's not political in any way. It's just a fantastic read. It's called The Over Story. And it's, let's see, I have it on my shelf. It's by Richard Powers.
The pronoun is usually
fabulous book. So it's something to check out. And then, the usual murder mysteries by like Harlan Coben are also good too. So
fantastic. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah,
She's the book nerd, a bookworm.
I am. That's my
I'm going to call you nerd, and I wear my nerd badge proudly. It's okay, right?
Hey, always been, always will. Yeah. Cheers, yeah.
Seth?
I'm going to go a little traditional here, but if I had to tell you the truth, right now I'm rereading all of Hemingway's short stories. If there's anything that kind of takes me away from the screen, which I think is something we all need, it would be Hemingway taking us out into nature and just kind of everything away from what's going on right now. So that's the long and the short of it. Hemingway's short stories.
I love it. I love it. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's always good to pick up some classics, right? And reread. And I find that when you're in a certain point in your life, you view that totally differently, right? So you can see it. You can see that situation differently. Devyn?
Absolutely.
Let's be. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a nerd. I don't really care much to read, but a book that I read in high school that my dad forced me to read because, well, he makes me he forces me to do stuff, and fathers are always like that. But the book is by Peter Benchley, Jaws. And I like how the book and the movie is really different in the sense that you get more when you read the book, you get more of an insight into the shark's mind. And you get some more detail of the shark. Usually in the movie, it's just Sheriff Brody, along with Richard Dreyfuss and captain, I forgot the captain's name, but and it's mostly them. But within the book, you get more of an insight of what the shark is doing, what kind of like what the shark is thinking, and it's just completely different. And I don't know, I liked it. It was different.
Listen, Devyn, one of the things that I love about you is your complete honesty and transparency. So the fact that you just said that and didn't just come up with some fantastic, I don't know, Tolstoy novel or something like that, I appreciate that, because many people would do that. So for that, I praise you.
Hi. So to disconnect, to be honest, I don't really read a book to disconnect. I work out and hang out with my family, but I do have a favorite book to share, and this is always next to me, next to my bed. It's called The Power of Habit. I love this book. This book like changed me. This book helped me with my life in general. It helped me with parenting, with teaching, with any of my other goals that I want to do. It's just, it helps me understand that everything takes time. And I think that's so powerful. And it was, after I read this book, it was just, I felt like a completely different person.
Thank you for sharing that, Melanie. That's a book that I would like to look into. So thanks for showing me the cover, because I'm very visual, right? I'll remember it just by that. For me, and you guys are going to be super surprised by this, I'm going to go with Born to Run, which is Bruce Springsteen's autobiography. And not just because it's Bruce Springsteen, but honestly, if you've never seen him, he puts on these epic 4-hour concerts. And this book is nothing less than that. Nothing's left on the stage. It's raw, it's gritty, it's honest, it's so New Jersey, even in the writing. And whether you're a big fan of his or you don't know anything about him, you'll leave the show or the book feeling this completely fulfilled, but at the same time wanting more. It's this he has this amazing ability to do that as a performer, but also clearly now as a writer. So I would definitely recommend that you check that book out if you have an opportunity. So thank you for sharing all of your thoughts. I want to just check in really quickly. I'm seeing a lot of comments come in, and they're fantastic. Yes, Pete, thank you. And Fran for supporting the boss. I appreciate that. But before, I wanted to call out and whether you can find it or not, John, that's okay, but one of Seth's former students who was on and said something so lovely about him as an educator. So if we can't find it right now, maybe we'll find it in a bit and throw that up there. Oh, look how good John is. I just love the fact that you have a former student reaching out, watching you right now, and the fact that you're relatable and engaging, and that's awesome. That must feel really good. A couple other people had mentioned things like doing labs and demos, and that's great. And thank you for all of you that are contributing to the comment feed right now. We're really enjoying that, and it's nice to go back and look at them even afterwards when we watch the recorded version. So moving on to another question. It was Henry Ford who said that failure is the opportunity to begin again more intelligent. So we know throughout this process it's been tough, right? I'd love to know what's something that you found out or you did that didn't work, and what did you learn from the opportunity that presented itself?
I'll start.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to start with just very simple. What I learned very quickly was that if you try to set a routine and then you differ from that routine in just a little way, you will have mass chaos. So, so I learned that you have to post things at the same time, and you have to make sure that this other thing kind of looks the same way, or else what you get is either chaos and kids panicking, or you get kids not doing something because they weren't ready for your change. So as stupid as that sounds, I learned the first week that you better have everything organized and have a routine, because that's the only way you could be successful here at the end. So I know that's kind of simple, but it's a good lesson.
I would completely agree. Routines are so important. Thanks for sharing that, Chris.
Yeah.
Seth?
I've always, followed the adage of, not the sage on the stage, but the guide on the side. And I really thought that I had that down until I started distance learning, where I realized that everything was even more condensed. I had to really engage my students even more. And I realized that they want to hear so much less of me speaking and more of us working through it and the after work. That's always been something that's important in the classroom, but even more so distance learning. And that was a big fail forward for me.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that that's wise words, definitely, and a good lesson learned that I think even veteran teachers in this new experience probably learned, right? We may have experienced that early on in our teaching career and realizing that, but now this was like being a brand new teacher all over again. Yeah, I would agree on that. Devyn, yeah.
I couldn't agree more with Chris. She's absolutely right. If you just defer just a little teeny tiny bit from a routine, everything goes haywire. The kids are like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, we go live every day. And the past 2 days, we've been doing office hours. And I have kids coming in to office hours saying, what are we doing today? I'm like, oh, it's just office hours. They're like, oh. I'm like, do you have any questions? They're like, no, I thought we were doing something. I'm like, no, just go make sure you're doing your assignments that you missed. And they're like, okay, Miss Tracy. So like, they completely go like crazy when the routine gets a little jumbled up. But one thing that not just me, but my team as well at Cover Middle School is one thing that we had a trouble with in the beginning was that when we started this, we didn't know whether to combine all of our classes, all of the 8th grade together, just to do one class or to do separate classes. So when we did all together the first day, it was crazy. We had a student say something inappropriate in the chat box. It was absolutely insane. And we were even afterwards, when we had a debrief, we were like thinking like, should we even do this? Should we just do our own classes? But we stuck to it. And we have gone so far from day one to where we are now. So I would just say, even though it was not a failure, but stick to what you want to do and it will work out in the end. You can't go wrong with that.
Thanks for sharing that, Devyn. Really good pieces of advice. Melanie?
So my experience has been a little different. I try to set up a routine like first week of distance learning to where I made myself available every day. And it was just a different layout. And I've come to realize that I was getting burnt out like a lot. So I had to find ways that works for me as well as my students. So I had to tweak that, and I did that, I think my second week or even my third week. And that's what I follow now. I know it was a big change and a change of routine. It was a mess for for a few days. But they stuck to it because I had to do what's best for the both of us and not just, for one way to maintain sanity.
Thank you for sharing, Melanie. And that actually leads me really nicely into another question I'd like to ask you guys. We know this has been a really difficult time, and even one of the participants on the side, Suhail, mentioned that this is different than typical virtual teaching, right? This is happening during a pandemic, so it's even more different than it would be had you been a Florida virtual teacher, right? So while this has been difficult, we have to consider the old adage, out of struggle comes strength. So yes, of course, this has been a difficult time, but I have to believe that some positives have come out of this. So what I would love to know from you guys is, what positives have you seen from this? And are there skills that students have developed? What are you seeing that's been a positive from this experience? Devyn.
I've had some of my students, if we were in the classroom, they would not be doing as well. But now that we're doing this distance learning, they're doing everything. I have students that are usually, unfortunately, C, D, F recruited in a classroom now has A's and B's because they're doing the assignments and they're attending the virtual video or Google Meet every day, and they're getting the content, and they're learning better than they would in the classroom. So it just leads to the question, what is the difference between the classroom and then virtual learning? So what are some things that we can implement from virtual learning that we're experiencing right now that we can do later in the classroom to help those students do better? And I feel like I'm so proud of all of my students that I have, because a lot of them are just really rocking it in this virtual distance learning that we're doing. And I couldn't be more proud of them. And those are some of the skills that I think that we're today with the computer age, this is important. And being able to communicate with other people via a laptop or a cell phone is going to be tremendous later on in their futures.
You know, Devyn, you brought up a great point that Michael Smith from Duncan in one of the videos I put together in the last couple of weeks mentioned. He even said, he's like, I'm going to continue to use Screencastify and record lessons when we go back face-to-face, because for my struggling students, them being able to watch it over again has been tremendous. So I almost wonder if that's one of the factors that's playing into the success that your students are having.
Mm-hmm.
Melanie?
I agree with Devyn. I found that students have become more independent. So at first, the live sessions, I did not get a lot of attendance because they forgot or whatever. And then just walking them through organization skills, like, okay, so why don't you set an alarm clock? Or, why don't you just put it in your planner and here are your lessons, and just walking them through it. They've become more independent, especially the ones who weren't so independent in the classroom. And I'm also proud of my students. This is where I mentioned, I think what Kaylin wanted to mention earlier, that I've done live debates, actually like twice. I did a Socratic seminar last week, and I'm so proud of them. Just listening to directions and letting them know that one student speak at a time, even if they can't see each other, like who's talking. The fact that they're listening to my cue and just waiting for me to call on them, I was really proud of them. I think that's a big improvement.
Yay, that's fantastic. And yes, you're right. I queued you up for that, right? No, I'm not kidding. I didn't want to tell everybody that. I was like, she's got to tell people that. I hope she says something. But yes, I agree. The independence is huge. Chris.
Yeah. My answer is short, but I'll agree with both of you ladies. Some of my struggling students are doing better now than they ever did. And I think that part of it is there's not as many distractions when they're not in a classroom of 24 of their peers doing something, that's not totally what they should be doing in a class. And the other thing is that they are developing these abilities to be focused and to find the time to do their work. I mean, I know it's crazy because I'm not awake at 2 a.m, but I have kids turning in assignments at 2 a.m. because I know that's what they, for whatever reason, their mind is on it. So they're getting it done. And I'm so proud of my Palm Springs Middle School 8th graders. Like, they are doing, they're rock stars. There's a couple here and there that I'm still pulling along, but I am so proud of the skills that they've developed to get their work done. away from distractions, I'm finding that there's so much, I think, learning that can occur when a kid can focus themselves. And I think that's huge. So good job, kids.
Thank you for sharing that, Chris. And I see other people like Candy Shortstrawber mentioned. She said that her low performing students are soaring. And that the virtual learning is removing any anxiety that they may have or distraction. So this is an interesting time. Seth, what are you finding?
So I want to echo the sentiment of everyone in the panel so far. I have students who I've always believed in and always supported, but I haven't seen them, performing at the top of their ability, and they have just been knocking it out of the park, and that has been extraordinary. And I think it attributes to the flexible environment. It attributes to the fact that they're not in front of their peers necessarily, and they may feel a little less guarded in some of their responses. But I also want to comment on some of the way that I've seen staff just step up, not just each other, but in tech. I've had teachers who I work with who, may be hesitant, maybe unsure of what they're doing technologically. And I know that the ed tech team has come in to support them, and they are just rock stars. And I think everyone has just jumped right in and realized that we have support, we have each other. And I think our community has become a lot smaller and a lot tighter as a result of this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that, Seth. I appreciate that. So to close it out, what I would love to ask you is, what has been your biggest lesson learned throughout this quarantine experience? What has been your biggest lesson learned? And I'll start with you, Chris.
Yeah. My biggest lesson learned, I think, is can be summed up in a couple things. Number one, be yourself. Number two, continue the relationship you've already built. Don't try to change. If you're not a tech savvy, wonderful person that uses it all the time, don't try to throw everything in here on distance learning, because your kids are going to freak. And then number three, let the kids know that you love them. You are there for them. You understand them. I mean, literally send out every day, I'm proud of you. I love you. You're doing a great job, and I'm here for you. And so if that would, that sums up basically everything I could say about this experience. And, I think it's going to grow us all in the end.
Thank you. Seth?
Big lesson learned for me is this has just kind of become an equalizer for me. At home, I am going through some of the same things my kids are going through, concerns about what's going on in the world around us, feeling isolated, trying to balance work and trying to get things in school done. And it's been humbling. And I always feel like I try to understand the mind of a teenager. I once was one, and I'm not anymore, but it's connected us. And I've kind of learned we're all humans. We're all in this together.
Thank you, Seth. I appreciate that. Devyn?
Just be yourself. Don't change. When you change, change can be good, and it also can be bad. And you never know for distance learning. Don't change. Be who you are. If you said in the beginning of the school year that you love your students from day one, keep on saying it. I still do today, even when before we leave our live chats. I'm like, all right, guys, bye, love you. And I'll have my students type in the chat, love you too, Miss Tracy. From other students from other classes saying that they love Miss Gail or Miss Perez, just keep on, just like what Chris said, just be who you are. Don't change who you are, because why would you want to be anybody different than yourself?
No wonder they love you. And then Melanie, what's your biggest lesson learned?
My biggest lesson learned is to always keep an open mind. I'm not the same educator as I was 5 weeks ago, and I've changed because I've kept an open mind, and I'm constantly learning about new things, new strategies, new ways to engage, and to keep my students motivated.
The best teachers are always learners, Melanie. So you got that. So I just wanted to say, these are just 4 teachers of so many who have contributed to a wealth of knowledge over the last 6 weeks. If you haven't had an opportunity to see any of the collaborations that I've been putting together each week, I would ask that you visit the YouTube channel, and John will put that up momentarily. If this is something that you're enjoying and you would like to see another panel of your colleagues, or you have something to contribute, please reach out to John or myself via email, or anyone in the ed tech team. I want to thank the team for their time today. I'd love to thank the people from ed tech that have been in the chat managing that. It's been amazing. And you can see in the chat there where the YouTube channel is, and I'm going to let each one of you just close it out really quickly and say goodbye and say something to everybody to send them off on a fantastic day.
I'm going to hop in quickly just to do our last, just a couple brief words on what's coming soon, just to share with everyone, if you don't mind, and then we'll give
I'm sorry. You want to do that, Art?
Oh, okay. Yep, we'll get that, and then I'll give them their last words at the end here.
Okay.
Sorry. Just real quick, we do have some awesome things starting on Monday. We're going to start doing some virtual experiences. So we have some awesome people lined up, awesome organizations to share with your students, with the goal being that your students actually get to join these. So we want you to share these experiences in your Google Classrooms and let them watch these live. We have some former vice presidents from Disney World. We have some Google employees. We have some awesome experiences. So the URL is in the chat. The schedule is there. It is being constantly updated. And we're also providing additional supplemental activities for students. And we also are going to do an actual Flipgrid response with each of them as well. So please feel free to check out that site and keep checking it out. We'll keep updating you guys the rest of this week. We also have our Institute that's going to be happening June 9th and 10th. The registration's open. Again, some amazing people from around the country going to be presenting. It's not going to be us here in Palm Beach. It's going to be major ed tech names who are volunteering their time to kind of give us a mini 2-day institute, sharing some great things for the summer. We also have some great things coming up. 12:30, again, time change. Smart is going to show how you can actually use SLSO to create digital manipulatives. And then at 2, which is also a time change, the phys ed department is going to be sharing ways that you can actually be more active and be more healthy as we move into the summer session. On Friday, my director, Adam Miller, is going to be doing a principal panel, so similar to this, except we're going to have 4 principals sharing their thoughts over what has happened in this time. And then Smart's going to close us out with our final live stream for teachers at 11:30 on Friday by just sharing some end-of-the-year celebrations that you can do inside of SLSO. We also have a Twitter chat next Wednesday at 11:30. We'll have more information on that coming soon, starting in our next streams. And one last thing, as always, we have our help form. If you need any help, please feel free to go and ask for it in this form. Someone will get back to you almost always the same day. So all those links are in the chat. Please feel free to use those. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Kaylin so she can have everyone sign out. Kaylin?
So as you guys sign out, I just want you to share what's something you're looking forward to doing when life returns to normal.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. When life returns to normal, I look forward to going back to the gym to work off all of the jelly beans and stuff I have been eating. And as I tell my students, just, count your blessings, recognize your blessings, and be a blessing to other people. And that's, cheers to that.
To be honest, I'm looking forward to seeing family and friends that I have not seen in a while because of social distancing. I'm looking forward to seeing my kids in the fall, and that's really on the top of my list right now. This has been awesome. Thank you, everybody. And remember, support your kids, support all of your kids.
Thank you for having me here. And the one thing I can't wait for, and I know Kaylin knows, but oh my God, I can't wait to go to Disney World. I want to go so bad. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I can't wait for the park to open. I can't wait to eat all the amazing food, but that's my number one. I can't wait to do when everything gets back to normal.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. So my husband would say that I spent all my money on food. So I cannot wait to go out to dinner, lots and lots of dinner. So I can't wait.
Well, I thank you guys. I can't wait to see all of you in person again. That's what I'm really looking forward to. I appreciate your wisdom today. Everybody in the chat, we appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.